In the vast, sun-scorched plains of the American Southwest, where the red earth stretched endlessly under a relentless blue sky, lived a man known far and wide as the Giant Apache. His name was Cale, a towering figure standing over 7 feet tall, with muscles forged from years of battling the harsh wilderness and defending his people's lands from encroachers. Cale's ancestors were proud Apache warriors, and though the times had changed with the encroachment of settlers and the iron rails of progress, he clung to the old ways, living in a modest ranch he built with his own hands from adobe and timber scavenged from the nearby canyons. His barn, a sturdy structure of weathered wood and thatched roof, stood as a sentinel against the winds that howled through the nights. Loneliness had crept into Cale's life like a shadow. At dusk his days were filled with tending to his horses, hunting in the rugged hills, and trading pelts at the distant trading post, but his evenings echoed with silence. It was this emptiness that drove him to an unconventional solution: a mail-order bride. In the flickering light of his oil lamp one fateful night, he pored over catalogs from the East, descriptions of women seeking adventure and companionship in the untamed West. He selected one whose words resonated with him: a young woman named Laura, with fiery red hair and a spirit described as unbreakable, hailing from the bustling streets of Boston. Weeks turned into months as letters exchanged hands via stagecoach, each one building a fragile bridge across the miles. Finally, the day arrived when Laura was to arrive by train at the nearby outpost, but a fierce storm had delayed her journey, leaving Cale pacing anxiously under the stars. Unbeknownst to him, Laura had pushed through the tempest, her determination unwavering, and sought shelter in the first structure she found upon reaching his land at the barn. Exhausted from the grueling travel, she curled up in a pile of hay, her travel-worn dress muddied and her dreams filled with visions of the giant man she had only imagined from ink on paper. As dawn broke, painting the horizon in hues of gold and crimson, Cale rose early to check on his livestock, his massive frame casting a long shadow across the dew-kissed ground. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of sage and distant rain, and as he swung open the creaky barn door, his keen eyes, sharpened by years of tracking game, spotted an unexpected sight: a delicate figure nestled in the hay, her chest rising and falling in peaceful slumber. His heart, usually steady as the mountains, skipped a beat. This must be her, he thought, the woman who had crossed an ocean of land to meet him. Approaching quietly, his moccasin-clad feet silent on the straw-strewn floor, he knelt beside her, marveling at her beauty, at the way her lashes fluttered slightly in sleep, the freckles dusting her nose like stars in the night sky. A whisper escaped his lips, soft as the breeze through the mesquite trees: "From the spirits of the ancestors, you have come to me." But the story was just beginning, for in that moment, worlds collided: the ancient traditions of the Apache and the modern yearnings of a city girl, setting the stage for a tale of love, challenge, and discovery. Cale watched her for a moment longer, his mind racing with thoughts of how to welcome her properly, perhaps with a meal of fresh venison and cornbread baked over an open fire. He recalled the letters where she spoke of her love for books and poetry, contrasting his own oral histories passed down through generations. Gently, he covered her with the blanket from a nearby saddle, ensuring she remained warm in the cool morning air. As the sun climbed higher, birds began their chorus, and the ranch came alive with the sounds of awakening life. Cale stepped back, deciding to let her rest while he prepared, his giant hands trembling slightly with anticipation. Little did he know, Laura's eyes had fluttered open just a sliver, catching a glimpse of her new husband-to-be, and in that instant, fear mingled with fascination in her heart. The barn, with its aroma of hay and leather, became the unlikely cradle of their union, a place where fate had orchestrated this meeting away from prying eyes. Cale's whisper lingered in the air, a promise of the adventures to come. As he turned to fetch water from the well, his steps light despite his size. 3,987 characters, Laura stirred slowly, the warmth of the blanket enveloping her like a gentle embrace, pulling her from the depths of exhaustion-induced sleep. Her journey had been arduous, days on a rattling train, followed by a bumpy stagecoach ride through thunderstorms that turned roads into rivers of mud. She had dreamed of this new life, escaping the stifling factories and crowded tenements of Boston, where she worked endless hours sewing garments for the wealthy. Orphaned young, Alara had learned self-reliance, her spirit unbroken by hardship, and the advertisement for mail-order brides had sparked a fire in her soul, a chance for love and freedom in the Wild West. As her eyes fully opened, she took in her surroundings, the lofty beams of the barn, sunlight filtering through cracks in the walls, casting dancing patterns on the floor. Horses nickered softly in their stalls, and the scent of earth and animals grounded her in this new reality. Pushing aside the blanket, she sat up, her hand brushing against a small locket around her neck, containing a faded photograph of her parents. Where was he, the giant Apache she had agreed to marry? Her heart pounded as memories of his letters flooded back, descriptions of his life, his respect for nature, his quiet strength. Suddenly, the door creaked open again, and there he stood, silhouetted against the bright morning light, a tray in his massive hands bearing simple fare, bread, cheese, and fresh berries picked from the nearby arroyo. Kale's voice, deep and resonant like thunder rolling over the plains, broke the silence. "Welcome, Alara. I am Kale. You must be weary from your travels." She nodded, her voice a whisper at first, gaining strength as she spoke of her journey's trials. He set the tray down carefully, his movements deliberate to avoid startling her, and sat on a bale of hay across from her, his dark eyes meeting hers with a gentleness that belied his imposing stature. As they talked, the initial awkwardness melted away. Alara shared stories of city life, the clamor of street vendors and the glow of gas lamps, while Kale recounted Apache legends of coyote tricksters and eagle spirits soaring high. The barn transformed into a confessional, walls echoing with laughter and shared dreams. Hours passed unnoticed, the sun arcing overhead, as bonds began to form. Kale whispered again, leaning closer, "From the moment I saw you here, I knew the winds had guided you to me." Alara blushed, her hand tentatively reaching out to touch his, feeling the calluses from a life of labor. Outside, the ranch buzzed with activity, cattle lowing in the distance, a hawk circling above ear. But inside, time stood still. She asked about his giant moniker, and he chuckled, explaining how his height came from a lineage of warriors blessed by the gods. As the conversation deepened, Alara revealed her fears of the unknown, the vastness of the land intimidating yet exhilarating. Kale assured her with tales of survival, teaching her the Apache way of reading the stars for navigation and listening to the earth's whispers. By midday, they ventured out of the barn, his arm steadying her as she adjusted to the glaring light. The ranch sprawled before them, fields of maize swaying in the breeze, a small adobe house with smoke curling from the chimney. Alara marveled at the beauty, so different from the gray stone of her past. Kale showed her the horses, introducing each by name, and she stroked their muzzles, feeling a connection to this new world. As evening approached, they shared a meal by the fire, the crackling flames illuminating their faces. Kale's whispers continued, promises of protection and partnership, weaving a tapestry of trust. Little did they know, challenges loomed on the horizon. Rival ranchers eyeing Kale's land, whispers of unrest in the territory of Sabat. For now, in the afterglow of their first day, hope blossomed like desert flowers after rain. 3,992 characters. As days turned into weeks, Alara immersed herself in the rhythms of ranch life, her delicate hands growing stronger with each task. She learned to saddle a horse under Kale's patient guidance, his large frame shadowing hers as he adjusted the straps with ease. The barn, once a mere shelter, became a hub of activity, mending harnesses, storing harvested crops, and sharing quiet moments amid the hay bales. Kale's whispers evolved from tentative greetings to affectionate endearments, often beginning with "from the heart of the mountains." As he shared ancient Apache wisdom, Alara, in turn, taught him snippets of poetry from her beloved books, reciting lines from Whitman under the starlit sky, her voice mingling with the calls of night creatures. Their bond deepened through shared labors, attending the garden where squash and beans flourished, repairing fences against wandering coyotes, and riding out to check on the herd. One afternoon, a sudden dust storm swept across the plains, blotting out the sun and whipping sand into frenzied whirlwinds. They rushed to the barn for cover, securing the doors against the howling gale. Inside, amidst the dim light and roaring wind, Kale pulled Alara close, his arms a fortress around her trembling form. "From the storms we endure, our strength grows," he whispered, his breath warm against her ear. As the tempest raged, they spoke of their pasts, Kale's memories of tribal raids and lost kin, Alara's tales of urban poverty and unfulfilled dreams. When the storm subsided, they emerged to a world washed clean, rain puddles reflecting the clearing sky. Life resumed, but with a newfound intimacy. Alara began incorporating Apache customs into her routine, weaving baskets from yucca fibers and learning herbal remedies from Kale's knowledge passed down through generations. He, enchanted by her curiosity, carved a wooden flute for her, teaching melodies that echoed the wind through the canyons. Evenings were spent by the fire, where Kale's stories painted vivid pictures of spirit quests and heroic deeds, while Alara read aloud from novels, transporting them to far-off lands. Challenges arose, testing their union and a neighboring settler disputing water rights, leading to tense confrontations at the trading post. Kale's giant stature intimidated foes, but it was Alara's sharp wit and negotiation skills, honed in city markets, that diffused the situation. Together, they patrolled the boundaries, her on a gentle mare, him on his powerful stallion, their silhouettes merging against the sunset. In the barn one twilight, as they groomed the horses, Kale confessed his fears of not being enough for her refined tastes. Alara laughed softly, cupping his face. From the first whisper, "You've been my everything." Their first kiss followed, tentative yet passionate, sealing a love born from unlikely circumstances. As seasons shifted, autumn brought golden leaves to the cottonwoods, and they prepared for winter, stocking the barn with hay and preserves. Alara's letters home spoke of joy, while Kale's tribe, initially wary, warmed to her presence during a visit, sharing a feast of mesquite bread and venison. Harmony reigned, but whispers of greater threats and rumors of land grabs by powerful cattle barons loomed, foreshadowing trials that would demand their united resolve. Through it all, the barn stood as a symbol of their beginning, a sanctuary where whispers turned to vows. 3,985 characters. Winter descended upon the ranch like a silent blanket, snow dusting the red earth and chilling the air with crisp frost. Kale and Alara huddled in the adobe house, the barn a short trek away where the animals were safely ensconced with extra feed and blankets. Their days were filled with indoor pursuits, Kale crafting arrows and tools by the hearth, Alara sewing quilts from scraps of fabric sent from Boston. Conversations flowed endlessly, delving into philosophy as Apache harmony with nature versus Eastern progressa and dreams of a family. One stormy night, as winds rattled the shutters, a knock echoed at the door. It was a messenger from the tribe, bearing news of encroaching surveyors mapping lands for railroads. Kale's face hardened, his giant frame tensing with resolve. "From the blood of our forebears, we must protect what is ours," he whispered to Alara, who nodded, her eyes fierce. Together, they rode out at dawn, bundled against the cold, to meet with tribal elders in a hidden canyon. Alara, though an outsider, was welcomed for her bond with Kale, and she contributed ideas from her knowledge of laws read in newspapers. The council decided on diplomacy first, sending petitions to territorial governors. Back at the ranch, tensions mounted as scouts reported sightings of armed men near the borders. Kale trained Alara in basic defense, teaching her to wield a rifle with steady aim, their practices in the barn echoing with gunfire. Amidst the uncertainty, their love provided solace. Stolen moments in the hayloft, where Kale's whispers of eternal devotion warmed her soul. Spring thawed the land, bringing floods that swelled the arroyos and tested their preparations. They worked tirelessly, reinforcing dams and rescuing stranded calves, their partnership unbreakable. Word came of a Victoria. The petitions delayed the surveys, but vigilance remained key. Alara's belly began to swell with new life, a secret joy they shared in hushed tones. "From this union, a new legacy begins," Kale murmured, his hand on her abdomen. Celebrations followed with the tribal gathering, dances around bonfires honoring the couple. Yet, shadows persisted. A rival baron, envious of Kale's fertile lands, plotted sabotage. One moonless night, rustlers struck the barn, attempting to drive off the herd. Kale, alerted by a horse's whinny, charged out, his massive form a whirlwind of fury. Alara, rifle in hand, covered him from the window, her shots precise. Together, they repelled the intruders, capturing one who confessed the Baron's involvement. Justice was swift at the trading post, where evidence led to the Baron's arrest. Peace returned, allowing them to focus on the impending birth. As summer bloomed, wildflowers carpeting the plains, Alara gave birth in the adobe house, assisted by tribal midwives. The cries of their son, named after Kale's father, filled the air with hope. The barn, witness to their first meeting, now echoed with the laughter of a child playing among the stalls. Kale's whispers to his son carried promises of teaching the old ways, blended with Alara's stories of distant cities. Their family grew, a bridge between worlds, resilient against adversities. Years passed, the ranch prospering under their care, a testament to love found in unexpected places. 3,996 characters. With the passage of time, the ranch evolved into a thriving homestead, where Kale's Apache heritage intertwined seamlessly with Alara's innovative ideas from the east. Their son, Little Trin, toddled through the barn, his tiny hands grasping at horse manes under watchful eyes. Kale taught him to track footprints in the dust, whispering tales of animal spirits, while Alara read him bedtime stories of knights and faraway kingdoms. The family expanded with the birth of a daughter, Myra, whose cries brought even more joy to the adobe walls. Challenges continued to arise: sea droughts that parched the land, forcing them to dig deeper wells and ration water wisely. From the earth's trials, we learn endurance, Kale would say, his voice steady as they worked side by side. Alara introduced irrigation techniques learned from books, channeling streams to nourish the crops. Their efforts paid off, yielding bountiful harvests that they shared with the tribe, strengthening alliances. Visitors came from afar, drawn by tales of the giant Apache and his mail-order bride, turning the ranch into a waypoint for travelers. In the barn, now expanded with additional stalls, they hosted gatherings, where music from Kale's flute blended with Alara's piano melodies shipped from Boston. Friendships formed, bridging cultural divides, and Trin's laughter mingled with other children's as they played hide-and-seek among the hay. Yet, not all was serene. Whispers of federal policies threatening native lands reached their ears, prompting Kale to journey to Washington with elders, advocating for rights. Alara managed the ranch in his absence, her resolve unyielding, teaching the children survival skills. Upon his return, victorious with concessions won, their reunion in the barn was tender, Kale whispering, "From separation, our bond grows unbreakable." Seasons cycled, each bringing growth. Myra's first steps, Trin's first hunt, the family planting trees to shade future generations. Community events flourished, with rodeos and feasts drawing crowds, showcasing Apache dances and Eastern games. Alara penned a memoir of their life, sent to publishers, inspiring others with stories of cross-cultural love. Kale, proud, added oral histories, preserving traditions. As children grew, they inherited the ranch's spirit, Trin mastering horsemanship, Myra excelling in herbal lore. Trials like wildfires tested them, but united, they rebuilt, the barn standing resilient. Evenings by the fire, Kale's whispers to Alara recounted their journey from that fateful morning, gratitude filling his words. Their love, forged in whispers and adversity, became legendary, a beacon for those seeking connection in a divided world. Grandchildren eventually arrived, filling the barn with new energy. As the cycle continued, Kale and Alara, graying but strong, watched sunsets from the porch, hands entwined, reflecting on a life richly lived. The title of their story, whispered among locals, captured the essence: a giant finding his bride in the most humble of places, building an empire of the heart. 3,978 characters. As decades unfolded, the ranch became a symbol of perseverance, its fields expanding through diligent work and wise investments. Kale, though age slowed his steps, remained a towering presence, mentoring grandchildren in Apache ways, attracting, storytelling, and respecting the land's spirits. Alara, her red hair silvered, chronicled their saga in journals, her words vivid as the sunsets they cherished. Trin, now a strapping young man, took over daily operations, his wife from a nearby settlement adding her own flair to the household. Myra pursued studies in the city, returning with knowledge of medicine that blended modern science with tribal remedies, establishing a clinic on the property. The barn, weathered yet sturdy, hosted family reunions, echoes of laughter replacing the solitude of yesteryears. Challenges persisted: economic shifts with railroads bringing competition, but innovation prevailed, diversifying into tourism with guided trails showcasing Apache history. Cale's whispers to the young ones began with "From the Ancestors' Wisdom," imparting lessons of unity. Alara organized cultural exchanges, inviting scholars to document traditions, preserving heritage amid change. One winter, a severe blizzard isolated them. Testing resolved they hunkered in the barn with livestock, sharing stories to pass time, bond strengthening. Spring revealed damages, but communal efforts rebuilt stronger. Grandchildren's adventures filled days of riding through canyons, discovering ancient petroglyphs that Cale interpreted with reverence. Evenings, around campfires, Alara recited poetry, her voice weaving magic. Their love story inspired ballads sung at gatherings, the giant and his bride emblematic of enduring passion. As Cale's health waned, Alara stayed by his side, in the barn where it began, whispering her own affirmations. From that first sleep, "You've been my awakening." He passed peacefully under starry skies, his legacy living through descendants. Alara, heartbroken yet resilient, continued guiding the family, her presence a pillar. The ranch prospered, a living museum of blended cultures. Years later, great-grandchildren modernized operations with sustainable practices, honoring roots. The barn stood as a monument, plaques recounting the tale. Visitors marveled at the story's romance, how a whisper sparked a dynasty. Alara joined Cale and the great beyond, her final words echoing his, "From love's quiet beginnings, empires rise." Their spirits, locals said, wandered the plains, guardians of the land. The family thrived, passing whispers through generations, a testament to fate's whimsical design. 3,984 characters. In the twilight of the ranch's evolution, innovation met tradition in harmonious blend, with solar panels powering the adobe structures while ancient rituals marked seasonal changes. Descendants, scattered yet connected, returned annually to the barn for ceremonies honoring Cale and Alara's memory. Turn's lineage managed vast herds, employing eco-friendly methods learned from Myra's descendants, who advanced herbal medicine into global recognition. Stories of the giant Apache and his bride were immortalized in books and films, drawing pilgrims seeking inspiration. Whispers of their first meeting echoed in guided tours, where guides recounted Cale's words, "From the haze embrace, destiny awoke." Challenges like climate shifts demanded adaptation of drought-resistant crops, water conservation, but the family's resilience, rooted in ancestral strength, prevailed. Community ties deepened, with alliances forming cooperatives against corporate threats. Grand gatherings in the barn featured feasts, dances, and storytelling circles, preserving oral histories. Young ones learned flute melodies and poetry recitations, bridging eras. Alara's journals, published posthumously, became bestsellers, her prose capturing love's transformative power. Cale's carvings adorned walls, symbols of protection. As technology advanced, virtual tours allowed global access to the ranch's lore, but nothing replaced the tangible feel of the barn's timbers. Personal triumphs marked lives, weddings under mesquite trees, births in the clinic, achievements celebrated with tribal drums. Whispers evolved into family mottos, guiding decisions. Through economic booms and busts, the ranch endured, a beacon of sustainability. Elders, reminiscing, shared how a mail-order bride's arrival sparked it all. The land, once lonely, teemed with life, fulfilling Cale's vision. In quiet moments, winds carried echoes of his voice, reminding all of love's quiet power. The story, timeless, inspired countless unions across divides, proving that from humble barns, great legacies bloom. 3,972 characters. Ultimately, the legacy of Cale and Alara transcended the physical ranch, influencing broader narratives of cultural fusion and romantic perseverance. Descendants ventured into politics, advocating for indigenous rights, drawing from Kale's diplomatic journeys. Others pursued arts, composing symphonies blending flute and piano, echoing parental harmonies. The barn, preserved as a heritage site, hosted educational programs, teaching youth about mail order histories and Apache resilience. Whispers of from unexpected slumbers, awakenings arise became proverbial, symbolizing serendipity. Global warming posed new threats, but innovative solutions to reforestation, renewable energy sustained the land. Family archives grew, with digital repositories of letters and artifacts. Annual festivals celebrated their union, with reenactments in the barn drawing crowds. Personal stories mirrored theirs, cross-cultural marriages flourishing under the same stars. As centuries beckoned, the ranch adapted, space-age tech meeting earth-bound traditions. Kale's giant spirit and Alara's fiery soul lived on, in every whisper passed down. Their tale, a video script of life's grand drama, reminded all that love, found in barns or beyond, conquers all. The end came not as closure, but continuation, whispers eternal in the wind. 3,981 characters.